Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks Workshop. We've got Randy Rogers. Don't run off camera.
Oh, sorry.
We got Randy Rogers, and we've got his friend Jim, right?
That's correct.
And I don't remember Jim's last name.
Carol.
Jim Carroll. And they brought me some instruments. I think they said they're co-owners in this one, right?
That's right.
This is a Mossman. There you go. Mossman's a well-respected guitar. I guess Doc Watson put Mossman on the map. And I'm sure other people as well, but Doc Watson's probably one of the more famous guys that play a Mossman. This guitar is in for some bridge work. The saddle is leaning quite a bit forward. There's a little bit of a hump right here, and I'm just a little concerned about what could be causing all that, so we're going to take a look. Okay, I've got the guitar tuned up here to the full pitch, and what I wanted to do was slide a piece of paper in here and see if we can see any problem there. Yeah, it does go under there. Yeah, it goes under there quite a bit, in fact. Going in there, 1/2 inch. Here, 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch. 1/2 inch. So it's definitely coming loose for sure. So we're going to want to fix that. More importantly, I want to look at the inside and see if there's anything going on in there. The saddle leaning forward also is very disturbing. As far as forward as it is leaning, it's really not good. That's also a factor of the fact that this bridge is pulling up and leaning forward. So there's some of that too, but it doesn't look like the saddle fits tight enough to me. It looks like there's a big air gap behind it. So we're going to look at all that. Okay guys, we're going to look inside this instrument and see if we can see anything. We know we got issues. The saddle is super loose. I just took the saddle out. It was just wobbly floppy in there. It's way too loose. I'm looking up on the inside. I just want to see. Okay, we do have a pickup in there. It's an LR Bags, he said. Well, the bridge plate is actually a good-sized bridge plate, so I don't see a problem. And it's a good quality rosewood type bridge plate. It's not the junk that lots of people put in there. So it's good quality stuff. It is pulled a lot. Let me look at the X bracing to see if it's come loose by chance, maybe something. Sure does seem to be pulled more than it needs to be. And the bracing looks okay as far as what I can see of it. As far as I can tell, it's good. The bridge pad is surprisingly good on it. I like the bridge pad. I'm just looking to see if I can feel behind it and see if maybe it's loose, though. I mean, it's a possibility, but I don't think it is. The answer is it's just pulled, and that's the way it's going to be. I think we probably should take it loose and put it back on. I'm on the fence about it. The reason is I always like to do the easy thing first. The easy thing would be to squirt glue under here, and I think we could do that and clamp it. And the odds are with tight bond, it would probably hold, but I can't guarantee it'll hold. I can pretty much guarantee it'll hold if I take it off and clean it. But I'd almost like to do the simple thing first. Are you too far away in case it would happen to be a problem again?
About 5 hours.
Yeah, I don't mind taking it off, but there's always a chance that something could get damaged when you take it off, and I don't mind doing it. There's another thing here that's bothering me a little bit, and that is that this bridge seems awfully small this way.
That's the way Mossman's.
Yeah.
Always. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing one this narrow, but I mean, I don't remember all the Mossmans. I mean, gosh.
Yeah, I played a few, but
I've had thousands of instruments through here, so I don't remember comparatively what they look like. But this does seem awful narrow. And that would be enough to let it do this,
You play it more than I do. What are you comfortable with?
actually, those were kind of my thoughts too. We've talked a little bit about, you've seen him do what you're talking about, and I'm thinking, you know, that's a very solid old guitar, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth a try, and if we get the saddle issue straightened out, it might fly for a while.
Yeah.
Just kind of.
On the other hand, I told him you'd have that bridge off there in about less than 30 minutes.
Well, it would only take about probably 30 minutes or so to get it off. It won't take a long, long time. I can get it off. It's just that I'm also always concerned that it might, you never know.
What gets me, I can leave that guitar a week and pick it up and it's pretty well in tune. It's not even, I don't know. I mean, you own as much of it as I do.
Let me rephrase it this way. I'm just being honest. I'm not lazy. I'm not trying to get out of work. But if it were my guitar, I think I'd do the easy thing first. It would just be the way to approach it. That's the way I would do it if it were my guitar. I would glue it and clamp it really well. We'll leave it overnight. I really have a lot of faith in that, and I'm pretty sure it'll work.
If you were thinking about taking it off, were you thinking about making a larger bridge?
Well, I could do that.
Was that hard to?
I mean, I could do that, but I wouldn't do that unless you wanted me to. I mean, I would prefer it to be a little larger, but that's just me. But
I'd say you're the expert.
My preference would be a little larger because it just holds better. It's just physics, you know.
I'm tempted with your recommendation. If you think the simple thing is best.
I think we're kind of all in agreement.
All right, well, guys, on the video here, in terms of what we're going to do for the video's sake, I'm going to try to get in here and clean it a little bit if I can, and I'm not sure I can, but if I can get in there with a flat blade or something and get in there and scrape it a little bit in case there's any old crusty glue in there. But then I think we're just going to get glue back under there as best we can and then clamp this thing and let it sit overnight. I really think that's your best first option in this particular case. I'm not a bit afraid to take the bridge off. That's not the issue. I just think there's always the issue that you could create a damage when you take something like a bridge off. Then you got to repair a damage on top of that. So this won't create any damage. It's the safest thing to try. If it doesn't work, you're no worse off than you were when you started. That's the way I look at it. So that's what we're going to do. I have a little bridge cleaning tool that I use sometimes. I'll be honest, it doesn't always work because you don't, always have enough room to get it in there. I'm going to get a little piece of tape and lay on here and then we'll try it. Okay, well, the good news, bad news. The good news is I did put some tape here. The bad news is I'm not doing well getting this under there. It's just really tight. I could probably force it, but I'm afraid to force it, I was hoping I could slide it under there. And it does go a little bit, as you can see, but it's not going to work well enough for this purpose. I think what we're going to just do is just going to do it the old way that I would normally do it, and that is we're going to wet this down really good, and we're just going to be feeding glue under there with a brush. At first, the glue is going to be a little bit milky, but then it's going to get thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker until we feel like we've really got it saturated really good with glue. And then we'll clamp it down and we'll be good to go. I've got this brush here wetted down with pretty warm water, and I'm going to try to slide it under there as far as I can, just plain old water. The reason I do that is the capillary action will suck the glue under there. I know it'll do that because I've done it hundreds of times. These are the kinds of things that your amateur type repair person, that like doing it the first time, they wouldn't think to wet this down. And wetting it down makes all the difference. And and you got to get a brush that'll slide back under there with the bristles some. And this one's on the edge. I almost wish I had a different one. This one's not really getting under there like I thought it might. So I'm going to try another brush. Okay, just trying a different brush. Yeah, that one's getting under there a little better. Not a lot better, but it's getting under there. See, there's no point in getting in a hurry when you're doing something like this. You just take your time. Get the water back under there really well. because the glue's too thick to go back under there without the water. All right, and we're going to use the original Tight Bond, wood glue. You don't want to use, on your bridges, you don't want to use this kind of glue, which is the ultimate, which is waterproof. You don't want to use waterproof. It might seem counterintuitive. You might want to, people might think that would be better because, you don't ever have to worry about it. It's really permanent. But that's the problem. If you ever have some other kind of problem and you do want to take it apart, Tight Bond like this, you just stick some water on it and it'll come apart. Especially hot water, it'll just come right apart. No problem at all. But that waterproof glue will not do that. It will not come apart. I'm still a little bit leery that this is working as well as I was hoping it would, because this is a fairly tight crack. So I'm going to get air and I'm going to try to blow it back in there a little bit too. Okay, I got the air here. I've only got maybe 15 pounds of pressure on this. You don't need a lot, but it definitely, you can actually see it blowing it back under there. Okay, we're going to clean up this mess, and I feel fairly confident that when we put the clamp on it, we're going to see a lot of glue squeezing back out of there. Put some water on this towel, and then we'll just wash off all the glue that's on the top of the guitar here. This is why water-soluble glue is what you definitely want to use. You won't mess up your finish. There are plenty of wood glues out there that will mess up your finish, and people use CA glue to do stuff like this because that would penetrate, but trust me, you can screw up your whole life with CA glue in about 2 seconds. So I would not recommend CA glue. Plus, CA glue is harder to get apart, though it will come apart with heat. Uh-oh, we've got that pickup in there. Doggone it. Didn't think about that.
I didn't either, I said something.
Yeah, doggone it. Well, we're gonna do this a little different. Since that pickup's in there and it's right in the way, we'll do this a little different than the average, but we'll make it work. See, I'm using wedges to tap between this block bar and the bridge, and it's definitely squeezing the glue out. When you drive one wedge in, the others will get loose, so you kind of have to work them down together. And let me show you what that looks like here. Do you see, can you see the glue squeeze out there? It's squeezing out really well. I think it'll be fine. I have a lot of faith in Tight Bond. I really think it'll hold it. I don't know what glue they used originally, but my guess would probably be a hide glue. I feel real confident that this will hold it. We'll just have to wait and see. There's no other option. I'm just doing a little extra cleanup here, and I just take the towel and take the end of the paintbrush or anything really, and just slide it in there and clean up a little bit. Just it pays to be neat when you're doing this kind of work. Just take your time and be neat with it. That's where most amateurs fall short, is they don't clean up what they're doing. Well, Randy and Jim gave me this next guitar to look at. It's a Martin D35, and it's Good looking guitar. He had work done on it. He had the neck trimmed down, didn't you?
He took the fingerboard off and took the reinforcement bar out and put a truss rod in it.
Okay.
And then probably reset the neck.
Yeah, it's got a truss rod in it, and it's adjustable through that brace. Looks like he did a pretty good job to me. Action, it looks maybe high. Let me just check that real quick here. I'm gonna just look at the action. I don't think it's crazy high, but it looks high. Yeah, we're probably at about 100 thousandths there, and it could be down to 90 would be good. This is about, it's not too bad on the treble. Yeah, I don't know, it's probably 95 to 100, so it could be down to 80. So it's high, not crazy high. The saddle's tall. It looks odd to me, the way it's tapered and cut and stuff. Some of your buzzing may be coming off your saddle, because it's not cut the way I would cut a saddle.
And there's intonation issues. It really struggles.
Okay, so he says there's intonation problems. He said there's buzzing. He hears, weird sounds. Well, and I haven't looked at the fretboard yet, so it could be the fretboard. But I also suspicion that it could be the saddle, because the saddle's got a front taper to it. What happens is your string rides on the back of the saddle and then buzzes off the front of the saddle, and it's very minute, but it'll drive you nuts. I think we can fix all of it here with what we have, because the saddle's too tall anyway, so I can recut the saddle. We'll check the intonation on this to see where it's at. If we have to, we'll level the frets, get it just right, and we may do that. First thing is, let me just play it a little bit and see what I think. Anything real bad off the saddle, but I think at least on one string I hear a little bit of something. There's a little after buzz ring on that one, so that probably the saddle. It's not that bad though. Let me note it now and see where we're having problems noting it. Start to buzz right there a little bit. Kind of went away. That tells me there's a high fret. A little bit of buzz there. It's not terrible. There's a little bit of fretting. If you don't get these frets within 1/1000th of an inch of each other, and I mean literally that or less, they'll buzz. Because all you have to do, if you don't believe me, is just note any string and then look at the next fret back and look how close it is to touching. And it's just almost touching, especially once you get them set low, and this one's a little bit high right now. I think all we just need to do on this one is just a good once-over setup. I think it'll be fine. First thing I'm going to do is write down what these measurements are, because we're going to drop this saddle down and get it where it ought to be. I know we're quite high on the bass side. Actually, we're real high on the bass side. 100 it's starting to get close at 100, but really at 110, it's still, I'm going to call it 110 presently. Do this like the big E is 110, and the little e is, I'm going to call the little e 100. We want to get them down to 90 and 80. That's just kind of your average. If you're in that ballpark, you're good. You can go a little lower, but you got to really have your frets level if you go lower. That's 20 thousandths high on this side, and it's 20 thousandths on this one. So basically, we need to knock 40 thousandths off of the saddle in order to drop this 20 thousandths. You know, this is the halfway point, so if you drop this down by 40 thousandths, you'll drop it down here 20 thousandths. So that's the halfway point. That's what we need to do. So we need to minus 40 thousandths off of this thing. The complicating factor on that, though, is the way this saddle is cut. Let me also check intonation before I get ahead of myself and see where the intonation is, because I haven't checked that. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not, but so I'm gonna get that E string hopefully dead center. Then note it at the 12th fret. 3 to 5 cents sharp, that's not terrible. And that'll probably go away when we lower the action, because the action will cause that. You know, that's pretty close. It's not bad. I've seen way worse than that. That's about a solid 5 on that one, which is still not horrible. That one's right on the money there. That one's sharp. 7 on that one probably. We might be at 10 on that one. That's your B string, and that's the one that often the B is set back further. Now, they do have the B set back on this one already. I don't know if we're going to fix that. The only way we could fix that would be to make a special compensated saddle. We might be able to do that. We're about 9 on that one. That one's kind of compensated to the middle. It's tricky because I don't like the way this saddle's cut at all, and I've got to fix that. That's going to affect my height here. So basically it's do some good guessing. That's what it really boils down to. Well, my friends, you can see we're over at the bandsaw, and we're going to make a new deer antler saddle for this. This saddle is actually high quality as far as material, but it just doesn't fit tight in the slot. I like them to fit snug in the slot, and it just helps everything. Helps your sound, and it's much more durable. You know, it's not going to create a problem. So I'm just going to whack off a piece of deer antler here and see if we can make one. Here we're going to go to the sander now, and we're going to sand a good flat spot on this outside edge, and then we'll trim that off. Okay, I'm going to slice off a fairly thick piece of this. little thicker than normal. I'm just using a clamp-on fence because my regular fence is indisposed. Okay, well, what I did there was I cut off a really thick piece of antler, and you can see there's some porosity on the inside. There's plenty of meat there that will get rid of all that porosity by the time we get this saddle finished, and that's what you want to go for if you're trying to make your saddle out of antler. Antler's one of the more solid bones, believe it or not. Cow bones are even thinner and harder to find solid material in, but this should work out just fine. You just want to realize that you don't want to use the porosity or any more of it than you have to. Sometimes you just have to use a little piece of it, but you want to limit that as much as possible. I screwed that up. I didn't turn the camera on, so I apologize, but basically all I did was sand off a lot of that porosity and tried to get it squared up and flat. And I think I'm going to go back to the bandsaw now and try to slice it a little thinner so that I can take it on the thickness sander and get it to the exact thickness. Now that's what I would call a AAA grade piece of deer antler. There's not any porosity left, and it's still plenty thick to make the saddle out of. Well, my friends, you saw me just make this piece, and what I thought I'd do, I was going to use the old one as a comparative, but I misplaced it. I can't find it. Anyway, I just wanted to measure this. This really is measuring awfully narrow, 87 thousandths. That's really tight. 86 thousandths there, so it must be right. Let me re-zero this thing just to make sure it's on zero. Yeah, 88 thousandths, 86 thousandths. All right, so what we're going to do is shoot for 90 thousandths on this. Then we'll go from there. Oh, yeah. I should have filmed it probably, but I thinned this down with my thickness sander to 95 thousandths. This measures about 86 to 88, and I just want to, do a sanity check to make sure I'm not going past where I want to be. But that right now you can see it does not go in there at all. So I'm going to take this down to 90 thousandths and test it again, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, we're at 95 thousandths on this. We're going to take it down to 90 even, or at least we're going to try. Okay, we're just doing a check here to make sure where we're at. See, we're at 95.5 right now. That'll probably take about 3 off, somewhere in there. Should be around 92-ish, 92 and a half, right there, right on the money. That should bring it down to 90. Well, it says, there it is, 90 on the money. Can you see it? If the video turned out, you saw me turn this down to 90, and I could probably force that in there. Well, actually, it kind of goes in a place or two. Like right there, it kind of goes. It's a little tight. Kind of goes there. I don't know. I think I'm going to take it down to 89 thousandths. One more thousandth of an inch, believe it or not. I think it'll probably go then. Got this ready to go, but I need length. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to arbitrarily put an up line right here for the length on this side. And I'll make it a little long and sneak up on it, if you know what I mean. So that we won't be too short. I'm going to cut that off, and then we're going to try to make the profile. Okay, what I'm going to do is trace an outline here of a saddle, and I'm pretty sure this one's going to be tall. I was just looking for one that would be tall enough. I just picked a random saddle. I always put them on my table like this so that I have a good flat surface. I'm not going to worry about length yet. I'm just looking for a general shape like that. And so that's really a lot of extra material that we don't need. I think I'll take this over to my other little bandsaw and saw this extra material off. And I'm not going to film that. Okay, my friends, I've got the this end of the saddle has been rounded over to match the end of the slot here, and I'm going to put that in the end of the slot like that, and then I'm going to mark this end, and as I said, I'm going to sneak up on it there. So there's that. I'm going to basically just sand that off and round it over, and we'll see if it fits. The saddle wants to go in there, but it's tight on the end, so I'm going to take a straight X-Acto blade and I'm going to scrape a little bit off the inside of this slot. And it's just a small amount. We're talking just a thousandth or two. So let's see if it'll go in there now. Yeah, it wants to. It's a little bit tight. I probably could take one more thousandth off this saddle. Wouldn't hurt nothing. I think that's where we're probably going to have to be. It really wants to go, but it's... Last thing I want to do is crack the bridge by forcing it in there. Yeah, it's really tight down there for some reason. Well, my friends, off camera, I've done a lot of shaping on this, get it close, but I don't have any idea on the action yet. That's what we're doing. I've got 2 strings on here just to kind of test the action. Probably pretty close to where we used to be, because I knew how big this old one was, you know. I would say we're right on the money of where the other one was. Almost exactly. So that's a pretty good eye. It's exactly where it used to be. So we're just going to take 40 thousandths off the bottom of this bridge, our saddle, and we should be good.
Do the quality of bridge pins make much of a difference?
They do make some difference, but it just depends on what, you know, if you go from one extreme to another, like if you go to just a piece of junk plastic to, say, like brass, well, you'll hear a difference.
Those came from Amazon, and they were supposed to be bone, but I don't know.
They look like they probably are. It's a different kind of bone. I'm not sure what that is. I better do this on camera. Oh, the camera's still running. Little editing there.
No problem.
So what I want to do is, you know, I'll black this out like this. And this is all below the bridge. Nobody will ever see this anyway. And then I just, to get this accurate, what I do is I make sure my calipers are zeroed out, and they are. Then we just set it at 40 thousandths. Then we scratch the mark in here. And then I'll just go over to my disc sander and slide it in till I see those lines touch. Okay, I took the 40 thousandths off this. I just checked it. I don't have it up to full pitch, but it's checking really close. You can't really tell until you get it to full pitch. So that's where we're going next. By the way, I'm going to bevel the ends off of these pins before I put them all in there. So I'm going to do that too on my sander. Okay, I got the 40 thousandths off of this. I beveled the pins, and now I'm just going to tune it up. So I'll get it tuned up, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, I've got her tuned up to pitch. I'm going to check the action here. I use an unconventional method. I just use a Martin thin pick. I can tell they're high because, in other words, if you could slide the pick in here and the string doesn't move, it's perfect. If it's going down, it's high. And these are all going down, so it's high. And it's just a simple way to do it. The Martin thin pick is about, I think it's about 16 thousandths of an inch. And some guys will say that that's too high. It should be lower than that. You get it down to this, you're going to be happy. That's all I can tell you. We're going to, the trick of this now is that you want to file at the angle of your peg head. This is another place your strings will buzz, is buzz inside this here. If you get the, and I'm exaggerating, but if you get the angle like this versus this, it's going to buzz inside of here and it's going to make a noise and you're not going to like it. So, and you don't want it flat either because that'll cause a buzz. So you want that angle to match your, and you want to make it a consistent angle. You don't want it rocking like this. Pretty much any consistent angle you have down is fine. I roughly just try to match the peg head. The other thing I don't ever like is to have the string tight in these slots. I would rather have them slightly loose, and I'm exaggerating that. You know, I don't want them loose. I would rather have them where they don't touch the sides than tight on the sides going down. That is not ever good. See, that's still high because, listen, I can pluck it and you don't even hear it going in. So that's still high. I also slightly rotate this just a little bit to help with that thickness so that it doesn't pinch on the sides. Again, you just got to sneak up on it. You can't, there's no way to do it. You just do a little bit and then check. Do a little bit and check. If you try to do it all at once, you'll screw up every time. See, we're closer. All right, so now the real test is put it in there and see if it goes down. Man, it barely goes down. But it is going down just a hair, so we're okay. The other thing that is not apparent, but it's black and white to me, is that the reason you don't want the strings pinched on the side is that the strings may not be getting to the bottom of the groove if they're pinched on the sides. So you definitely want the string to go down to the bottom of the groove. That's why I waller them out just a little bit. And then I take pencil lead, especially on the wound strings, and then I just put pencil lead in the groove like this. It just helps with tuning and different things. All right, so let's tune that one back up. I like to keep all the rest of them at pitch while I'm working on them. That way you know you get it right. So now you barely have to touch it to go down. You only have, it only moves the thickness of that pick now.
Pretty thin.
Pretty thin, isn't it? So then you go to the next one and you do the same thing. This one's not moving as much, but it's moving. So rinse and repeat, as they say.
That's the question in here. Mm-hmm. When my D41 was new, it had the high E string, and I've seen other people comment on this. If you were doing a pull off, it would fall off the edge of the neck and hang under the fret.
Oh, yeah.
And I figured, the shop where I lived close to at the time, he took and he actually angled it in just a little bit as he cut that fret slot. And it's probably still that way, but it fixed it. And I don't know if it was because the string was too far to the outside or just my way of playing.
Yeah, I'd almost have to see what he did on that one. I'm not quite following it, I don't think, but
as he lowered it, he angled it to where it cut it towards the center of the neck.
The end of the fret he cut that way?
The slot. As he cut that slot.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, you could.
It in just
you could do that. Yeah, you could.
And
do
it
that.
fixed it. But
yeah, you could do that. I would see that being a possibility. I do that a little bit myself. The other thing is if you're doing one of these that you're not real familiar with, like somebody brings it to you to fix, little is way better than a lot when you first start, especially because, again, the string could be pinched and you go to town knocking it down, the string will fall down through there and you'll be way low. So you really want to take your time on this kind of thing. I can't really stress that enough. Perfect, right there. It's not touch, the string's not moving, but you can't see the string move after I put the string, pick in. That's perfect. You always go very slow on this. You get a feel for how much you're taking off once you do enough of these, but you have to do enough of them.
And you don't go with the baking soda super glue fix?
Never. Well, I shouldn't say never. I'll do it on a cheap instrument, or somebody that I know ain't got no money, don't want me to spend any time,
What a good heart and soul.
But I would. But I wouldn't do it any other way. I mean, on a Martin, there's no way I'd do that. Not a chance. You'd have to hold a gun to my head.
Will it not stay, or does it bind, or not sound right, or all of the above? Or?
Yeah, a little bit of all the above. It'll grind away over time. You're pulling. That super glue is not that strong in that way. Super glue is a pretty strong bond, but it's not that strong on rasping. You can rasp it right off. That one's not much. I mean, I almost don't need to do this one, but I'm going to go ahead and mainly make sure that the slot is right. Not going to lower this one much. Just making sure the slot is at the angle.
Need to order some then to me.
If you do, don't order them at the exact size of your strings. Get the ones that are slightly bigger. Or if you get them the same size, waller it a little bit.
Well, you can't even feel the texture hardly on it.
No,
on the edge, I guess.
It's like a diamond file or something. I think it's like a diamond or something like that. I'm not really sure what it is.
These are nice.
Might be carbide, I don't know. Huh?
Are these files for other applications besides what you're doing?
Not really.
Okay.
It's pretty much specific. All right, so we got these three just perfect. I mean, they're absolutely perfect. When you slide that thin pick in there, there is no movement of the string at all, but yet you don't have to force it under there. It's not lifting the string either. That's another thing you don't want it to do. You don't want it to lift the string. See how it just slides perfect. And it doesn't move when you press down on it. It's perfect. Some people get mad at me when I say perfect. It's as perfect as you can make something like this. This one is moving very slightly, hardly anything. A little bit more on that one, but not much more. This one, nothing. I don't think we have to do this one at all. That one's pretty much perfect already. These two just very minimal.
If you have to flatten the frets in or file the frets or crown them any, will that affect this?
Oh yeah. It looks like we take a lot off the frets, but it's so minimal. It's so minimal. And recrowning them, we don't even touch the top. Or we try not to.
Right.
We try to just get it off the edges and make it come up to the top. You know what I'm saying? Typically I would do the frets first, but we just kind of evolved into this one. Still a tiny bit of movement on that one. I'm going to call that one good. You get it, you just go press your luck, you know. Okay, so now we have the action set as about close to perfect as we can. We know that Randy said he had done some filing on this, so now we're going to just kind of test it all over and see if we're hearing any buzzes or anything. And, you know, if we are, we'll address it. Plays easy. Got something going on there. Honestly, it's not bad. It's just there's a little bit on the B string. So it's really from the 5th fret back. A little bit. And it's minimal, very minimal. Let me double check the action here just to see where we're at. Should be really close. It's probably a high 90 here. It's more like about 95-ish. And it's about 85-ish, which is always better to be a little high than a little low. I mean, you can always go down. Going back up sucks.
How about the relief on the neck? Because like I said, that one guy was twisting around on.
Yeah, I'm looking down the neck just to see what it looks like. It's got underbow, probably a little bit more than it needs, quite honestly. It wouldn't hurt to tighten that up just a tiny bit. I'm going to loosen the strings a few turns. You don't ever really want to tighten a truss rod with your strings tight. It's just not a good idea. Loosen them 3 or 4 turns each, something like that, and then tighten your truss rod and you'll be okay. Well, my friends, he asked about the underbow in his neck, and I looked down it, and it was real obvious to me it has too much. So it's not horrible. I've seen way worse. It's just it had too much. So I tried to tighten this. This truss rod was already really tight in this guitar. By the way, the truss rod was put in by another luthier. They took out the standard, whatever that thing was, that stiff bar in there, and put in a truss rod. And they did do it well and all that. I'm not complaining. But the truss rod was really tight already, and so I had to tighten it a little bit more to try to straighten it out. Now, while the strings are loose, it looks perfect. I don't know if it's going to stay that way. I grew up in a lawn service. My dad had 2 businesses mainly. He had kind of 3. He had dogs, he had horses, and he raised them and sold them. And then he had the lawn service. The lawn service was his main business. So the standard line is that when I was ready to get married, I drove around the neighborhood until I saw a girl cutting her own grass, and I married her because, man, I had all the grass cutting I wanted when I grew up. All right, so we got her all tuned back up. I'm going to look down the neck and see if I think the neck looks right or if it's still too much underbow. It's improved, but it's got as much as it needs. It doesn't need any more, that's for sure. It's not horrible. It's not bad. It's about as good as you're going to do with this one the way it is right now. I'd probably just hope that stays that way. But it's pretty good. It's not bad. Let's see. Let me double check for buzzes now that we pulled that up again. Really, I don't think it's too bad. I don't know, why don't you play it and let me start working on the next one and you play that one and see what you think.
Okay.
So what's the next one?
The next one's the D41, and it may not need anything.
Okay.
There's a couple things I wanted you to look at.
All right.
The saddle is just barely sitting above the bridge. You know, it's,
I didn't check the intonation on that yet, but I forgot that, but that's okay, we'll do that in a minute.
Did you want to look at the
Yeah.
41?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. There's some fretwear on it. Whatever you think, maybe it isn't bad enough to worry about.
Yeah. Fretwear, a lot of it just depends on the person. They always look worse than they are, generally speaking.
The action feels pretty good to me on it.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy with that. It's easy to put a capo on. Oh yeah. The reason I took it to the guy in Tulsa recently, right around here where my arm goes, this half a dozen pieces that had popped out.
Yeah.
So he replaced those, and for some reason this inside piece was sticking up proud. So he repaired that. Seemed to do an okay job.
Yeah, it feels fine.
But anyway, trying to think of any other issues. That's really about it. And then in the bottom, the waist on the bottom side, you can see the finish is just really soft.
Okay.
And that's because of my sweaty legs. Oh, I got one.
Well, my friends, we're on to guitar number 3 from Randy and Jim here, and this one is a D41, I think they said.
Yes, sir.
What year is this?
Bought it in '86. It was made in '85.
85. So it's a really nice guitar, very nice guitar. And this one is just for an inspection. He wanted me to just look it over, so that's what I'm going to do. Bridge looks really good. The top looks very good. Often you'll see a bulge here. This one's pretty darn flat. I mean, you can always see a little bit of something, but it's really pretty flat. It's, you got about the right amount of, just a hair maybe, just a hair maybe too much underbow, but it's so minimal that I don't even think I'd do anything. If, you know, maybe the next time you change your strings, maybe just give it a quarter turn, you know, if that. I wouldn't even go any more than that, I don't think. Just to make sure it's good and tight, you know.
Okay.
But I wouldn't go any more than a quarter turn. It really looks good. Let me just check the action here.
Not getting any buzz.
So the action's about right. You can argue that, but it's pretty close. And let me check the action at the first fret here with my pick. You could lower it a tiny bit. It's not far off. close. The action's very close. It's, I mean, you know, if you're splitting hairs, it could go down a hair, you know. So other than that, it's pretty good. If he ever learns how to play, he's gonna be pretty good.
I'm still working on it.
I didn't think this one was very high, but I sure have filed a lot.
I'll be curious if you can see any bit of that angle on that high E where you brought it to the center a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Because that sure fixed it. Before there, it was, you know, you do a pull off and it did
It looks good. I mean, it looks like it's right, just by looking at it there. I'd say whoever you had working on them knew what they were doing. I don't even know. Are you guys just staying one night or 2 nights or?
We booked 2 nights.
Okay, cool.
Are you guys staying up at
The big house. We'll be in the big house.
Well, good. You can be on my jam tomorrow night then.
Well, you want
That'd be fun.
to, we'd be honored to
Yeah,
participate if it's...
Cash will be here. That little boy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Oh, I saw the videos of him that you posted in the contest. In fact, my wife and I play sometimes at a local barbecue joint, and we've started doing the Tennessee flat top box after seeing him in the.
He does a good job on that.
Good job.
You know, for a young kid like he is, and
You helped him a bunch.
oh yeah, yeah.
My dad was a bit that way. He would cut across measures.
Yeah.
And played with another friend of a friend, an older gentleman, and the same way. Just you didn't know if he was going to stretch it out a half a measure or cut half of it off.
Right.
Just be ready to go.
Yeah.
Because he was going somewhere.
This micarta is hard to file.
I've often wondered, you know, it sticks up quite a bit above the strings. Does that matter?
It doesn't matter to me. A lot of people are really picky about that, but to me, it doesn't really matter as long as it's not binding.
Right.
You know,
And
it's more just looks.
That's
It's just whatever you prefer. You know, if you like it, I mean, you want it knocked down, you can knock it down. It ain't no problem. But it's not that big a deal one way or the other.
I'm sure they're probably a little tight because I've gotten the bad habit. I'll tune it, and if it's a little low, you know, I'll pitch it here. Well, that's fine until you bend the string, then it pulls it back. And so I'm sure that there's been binding in the nut a little.
I really am having a tough time getting this one to go down. What are you doing, Leighton?
Grabbing my brother's hat.
Finally got his hat back. It's all full of dust now.
There we go. We're finally there. We're finally there.
Okay, probably a bridge saddle in there somewhere in that hat.
Probably. Yeah, that's pretty nice.
I can lay into that low E string and get it to buzz a little, but that's really
That's
lay it
fine.
into it.
Yeah.
Harder than you need to play it.
Well, you'll have time to play with them, you know, like this evening and stuff. And if you need more work on it tomorrow, we'll do it.
I think it's about the best system I've ever seen.
Sounded and played for sure.
I mean, I don't want to brag on you, teammates here,
Yeah, well, you know,
but
just is what it is.
I wonder if truly that the antler and the fitting of that saddle did make.
Oh, it makes a difference.
It really
I flat guarantee, 100% guarantee you that makes a
Let's
difference.
do the intonation again, because that seems a lot better.
Of course,
I didn't check the intonation. I meant to, I forgot. But it might be off a hair, but it's not bad, I don't think. The B string could still be off.
Yeah. You don't happen to know what key cache does that Tennessee flat top box in, do you?
I have to think on it. I seem like I don't know for sure. I think he does it in A, but I'm not sure.
Well, they don't need any help on that.
Yeah, that's still high. Well, for one I thought was pretty close. It's not. Merle Haggard.
Whoa, that popped something on that.
You off the string
Just
or?
pulled up in this.
Perfect. Perfect.
Well, not at all.
oh, I bet maybe the saddle actually slid back down a little deeper, maybe.
Maybe it did.
I'm getting a little more buzz out of that.
Check the intonation. We've got the action really close up here. The action's not far off back here, so let's just check intonation and see where we're at on that. All right, so there's your E. And then the 12th fret, I guess, is that one. 4 or 5 cents. That's pretty close that time. Might have just been the way I was fingering it. It's right on the money that way. Really close. Really close. Really close. Very close too. Well, that's about as perfect a guitar as you can have right there. It's just really very, very, very good. Well, it's the next morning, and the boys wanted me to do a recrowning on these frets because he had leveled them flat, but he didn't recrown them. And it plays fine. They said it plays better than it's ever played, sounds better than it's ever sounded, but they still would like for me to do the recrowning. And I say that's fine, so we'll do that. I'll probably do a very light fret re-leveling also before I recrown them, but it'll be very light. So we'll take the strings off yet again. Takes a lot of up and down with the strings to get everything perfect on an instrument. I mean, I'm sure you can reduce the number of times you do it if you get it planned out perfectly. I don't always plan things out. I just let them evolve as I'm working on it, you know. It just is what it is. I know some guys are all about everything has to be just exactly one way and no other option, but that's not how I function. And if you're wondering, I'm not squeezing with these. I just get them under there and lift. It's just, to me, it's the universal pin puller. It works great for me. It's much faster than messing around with all kinds of gadgetry. Like I said, I'm going to first just do a light fret leveling and see if I feel high frets. I feel a little bit of a high fret right in there, right there. I can feel them with this pretty quickly. I'm going to knock the ends of the frets down a little bit. Up here, I keep my fingers under this so that it never gets down to the top of the guitar. I think that's all we need to do on the leveling. It didn't need much. You know, he was worried that he had messed it up, but honestly, he did fine on the fret leveling. These frets are a little bit too big for my medium, and they're a little too small for my large, but I'd rather use the large. I don't want to take anything off the top of the fret. That's just silly. I mean, you just got done leveling them. You don't want to screw with the top of the fret. So I'm rolling this back and forth on the sides as much as possible. I'm trying to knock the corners off. It may look like I'm hitting the top, but if I'm hitting the top, it's very, very minimal. And then I like to go over the ends like this. It really does help clean them up. From this point up, the frets are pretty round. There's not much point in me messing with this because they're as round as this is now. So there's no reason to mess with it. I'm just looking for the ones that are a little flatter than others now to maybe give them a little bit more love there. Here's some 800 sandpaper, very fine. Honestly, 400 is perfectly fine. Lots of people get all hung up on this too, thinking that it has to be, you know, you got to do 800, 600, you know, 1200. But seriously, 400 is perfectly fine. You know, you're dealing with metal, not wood. When you're saying something with 400, it's pretty freaking smooth. This 800 is probably almost overkill because it takes longer to get the same result that you'll get with 400 fairly quickly. And also, this is probably looks like I'm doing the top of the fret again, and I'm not at all doing the top of the fret. Even though I do touch it, I mostly am pulling against this side of the fret and against that side of the fret, and let them kind of overlap in the middle there, and it will clean up the top, but barely, just barely. I just barely want the top cleaned up. I'm mostly working on these corners to get the flatness, you know, that flat appearance away from this. And it's looking great already, but this can take a little time. I'm going to see if you can see the difference there between the first fret and some of these others. So the first fret there is now been cleaned up. These others are a little bit flatter looking. They're not bad though. I mean, you can play it like this and be no problem. It's just mostly cosmetics is what we're dealing with now. It's really got nothing to do with playability at this point, even though a lot of people would disagree with that. Doing what I'm doing here does improve it maybe a little bit for bending strings, a little bit, but honestly, on a fret this smooth, if you can feel the difference, you're a lot better man than I am. That's all I got to say about it. It's mostly eye appearance and that good warm fuzzy feeling you get. That's really what it mostly is. Again, I'm switching from side to side, mostly trying to get rid of the squareness that you can kind of still see a little bit of. After you sand it like this, you generally don't see the squareness at all. Even though in reality, it's still a little bit there. All right, I'm going to turn the camera off. You've seen what I'm doing there, and it just makes tons of footage for me to wade through, and there's no reason for me to have to wade through another extra hour's worth of footage. Well, 30 minutes. Okay, I got all the frets polished to 800. They look really good. Easily you could stop right there. You could just stop. It's perfectly fine. The fretboard has a little scuffing because of putting this thing on there. You're going to do that, but we'll clean that up eventually here. This next step is optional, but I figure might as well. I know these guys are pretty good pickers. I can tell they're pretty picky about their instrument, so I'm going to go ahead and polish these things out. More for them than for me, because it really is just a looks thing at this point. Really has pretty much zero bearing on the playability, even though some guys will sure tell you it does because of the bending strings and things, and regardless, we're doing it. Now, there's an obvious visual difference. That one's super shiny. You can see yourself in it. It's like a mirror. I mean, literally like a mirror. This one's not like a mirror, but it's super smooth. If it wasn't super smooth, I couldn't make it look like a mirror. But in my opinion, looking like a mirror is truly just cosmetic. It's not mechanical. Lots of guys use the buzzwords, I don't care what it looks like, I want it to play good. But on the other hand, the really picky players, they like it to look good too, like this. As I've said, this semi-chrome polish is excellent for doing all kinds of work on guitars. It's mainly used for polishing out metal, but it works great on finishes, plastics, things like that, to polish them out and make them look shiny. It really does a good job. It's on the products I use page of my website. I'm supposed to get a little kickback when you buy them there, but I haven't seen any kickbacks in months. I don't know if anybody's just not buying things off there anymore or what the deal is, but I don't get any kickbacks, so at least you can get them off of there. You don't need very much. In fact, that's more than I need. Way more than I need. You try to get just as minimal as you can on your rag because it just goes everywhere. These frets will be so slick he'll slide right off, he won't be able to play. Randy Rogers is a really good picker, so I think he'll appreciate this. Once again, I'm going to turn the camera off because just eating up time for me in the editing process. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm finished. There you go, my friends. Those look like mirrors. Every one of them, all the way up to the end. They look like mirrors. Need to just do one more wipe down with a towel like this. This will get rid of any extra residue or any extra look that was there, you know, from that polishing compound. Wipe off the edges. Yeah, that's as slick as snot on a doorknob right there. Say you wanted to, you know, I had the tuners off here and you wanted to make this peg head look good. You could use that semi-chrome polish. It would make it look shiny like brand new. It really works good on your finishes, especially like nitrocellulose lacquer finishes. I won't say it'll work on a shellac finish because I don't honestly know, but definitely on nitrocellulose lacquer for sure it will. Shellac is a lot different. It's water soluble and I don't think it would do well on that. What you do is if you're not sure, just test it in a small space and go from there. I'm just going to string her back up. Got the same strings in it. I think the boys, when they get here this morning, will be pleasantly surprised with that job. When you get right down to it, my friends, those frets look way better than anything that comes off the showroom floor. There's nothing comes brand new that looks that good. That's just a fact. All right, I'm going to tighten this back up, tune her up, and we'll call this one finished. Well, my friends, I think this guitar turned out perfect. It really is as good as you can do one. I'm pretty sure the boys are going to be happy with that fret job. If they're not, I don't know how to help them. We'll move on to the Mossman now. It's been setting overnight and we need to take the clamps off and see if that bridge is going to hold. Well, the Mossman, as I said, has been sitting overnight, so let's take the clamps off and see if we did any good with the bridge repair. You know, like I say, and I've said this many times, it's not a bad idea to try the simple thing first. Some people don't want to do that, but in my opinion, it's the best thing to do because it may be all you need to do. And there's a chance. I'm not saying 100% chance, but there's a chance, like maybe 60% chance that this is going to hold it. And that's all you'd ever have to do. Why do more if you don't have to? Because all you do, whenever you do more, is, especially in something like this, is you risk damaging more. Because when you take this off, you know, there's no zipper. You can't just take it off. You have to break it off, basically. I mean, I'm being a little dramatic, but that's really what you're doing. You're breaking it to get it off. Well, it's not meant to come off, really, other than the fact that maybe the kind of glue you use could help it. You know, and of course we did use tight bond, so it's heat sensitive. If we heat this up, we can get it back off, no problem. But anyway, the point is, let's see if this worked. But before we even get to that, I'm going to go ahead and do the full-blown fret job on this, and it needs it anyway. You can see some pretty good fret grooves in those frets. They're pretty worn. So we're going to clean this all up and make it look like new again. Before I get to the frets though, because we had a lot of glue on here, I'm just going to use this is just warm water to try to clean up any glue residue. Now I cleaned it up already, you understand, but this kind of glue will wash off with water, so it's just a good practice the next day to go ahead and wipe it down again like that with some warm water, and then more or less just kind of buff it out with this cloth with these towels. I really like these towels, I really do. I prefer them over any kind of cloth, over anything that I've ever run into. I just think these are the best thing you can get. Now don't get the quilted ones, be sure you get the smooth ones. There's a link to those on the products I use page, I think, as well. But you can buff out a finish with these like no other cloth, in my opinion. Some people say it's because these things have some sort of a clay built into them. I don't know, but it works. So we know we got, a fret job ahead of us on this. I don't know. I think it plays fine, but it just needs it. It's just at the point where it needs it. So here we go. Okay, I always like to just kind of do that. I can feel where the high spots are. A couple little inconsistencies, but overall not too bad. Some people think they have to use all that gimmicky stuff, the the radius file thing on the radius sandpaper and all that. Trust me, if you watch what I'm doing, I'm following the radius. It's going to stay exactly like it was, and probably, well, I know it'll be better than it came from the factory. Idea on a fret leveling like this is you go down till you get to where you can just barely see the last groove. That's where you stop. You just barely can see it. The rest of your filing and everything will get rid of that. No point going any lower than you have to. Another way to say that is if you remove every trace of it, now you don't have any reference as to how deep you've gone. So the idea is to not go any deeper than you need to. I still got one little tiny groove right here. It's still showing some depth, so go a little bit more. There's another mistaken idea about fret leveling. People think it has to be perfectly flat from here to here, and that's really not true. Where you get your best fret job is this fret is level to this one and this one by relativity. In other words, they're all level in the relative area they're in. If your fretboard goes like this, that's fine, as long as all the frets are level within the area. I'm exaggerating this, of course, but you know what I'm saying. If there's a little bit of underbow or whatever, it doesn't have to be perfectly flat. Lots of people think you got to get this fretboard perfectly flat before you start doing a fret leveling. As long as you're using this kind of fret leveling tool, it is all level relative to each other, and that's all it needs to be. And it'll work every time. I've done it for 40 years. I'm confident 100% in telling you it'll work every time. Okay, I can still see a trace, but I'm going to leave it there. That's good enough. You go much lower, and these frets, this is probably the last fret job these frets can take. They will probably need to be replaced the next time. No, that's, it's up in the air. I mean, it's possible. It just depends how long and how far you go with it the next time, too. Now we'll get the recrowning file again. By the way, on my large recrowning file, I have rounded over these outer edges, literally rounded them over like on a sander and things so that they don't make a mark when I'm rotating it like this. You cannot do this rotation like I'm doing if you have those square edges. It will just tear up your fretboard. The fret ends on these end up on top of the fretboard, so you don't really need to file the ends of these. Peter from Germany just walked in. How are you doing, Peter?
Oh, fine.
Peter's been watching the channel a long time, and I'm so glad he stopped in. He's headed to Las Vegas and Yellowstone and places like that, and he's going to love that. Especially, in my opinion, Yellowstone. This is a Mossman guitar. Are you familiar with Mossman? Yeah. Well, there you go, my friends. That's all there is to it. You notice I didn't cover anything, but you also notice I didn't scratch anything. It looks like I'm just going off the top, but I'm actually going on the sides of these. I'm pushing on the sides and pulling on the sides. I try not to hit the top any more than I have to, but...
Because you leveled it already.
Yeah, because I've already leveled it. And so, and with this 800 sandpaper, you're not taking much off.
I found out that it often makes this little rounding that is required you can't do with that toy.
No, you can't.
And
it takes the sandpaper.
Yeah, and it's better to take it with the sandpaper this way.
Yeah.
But I keep this shield with a rubber band.
Oh, you do this with a rubber band?
Yeah, just underneath it.
It's much faster this way.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
As I see you working, it's agreed.
When you have to do so many like I do, it's just, you got to find the fastest way to do everything. Speed is everything for me.
Yeah.
Especially when I was doing it and getting them shipped in from all over the world. Oh my gosh. Speed was everything.
If you send me an instrument from here, I have to pay tax. So if it comes from Gibson.
I thought you said text.
Tax.
I thought, okay, tax. Yeah, it's a mess. Yeah, that shipping across international, it gets really expensive. I shipped a mandolin to Ireland. I think it was over $600 just for the shipping. Ridiculous.
Now you have a friend in Germany, isn't it good?
Yes.
If you ever come to Germany.
Well, you never know. You never know.
If you, I'll be there.
That would be wonderful.
And you may use my downstairs and repair guitars if you're bored to death. Before you're bored to death.
Yeah, before I'm bored.
Yeah, that's similar the way I do it. I go to 600, so somehow.
This is 800. It's good enough. It's more than good enough. 600's more than good enough.
Yeah.
Even 400 works. I really have gotten very good results with 400. So, I know a lot of people think it has to be more than that, but it doesn't, really.
No.
It really doesn't. You can do wonderful things with 400 on metal. 400 on metal is super fine.
Yeah.
It really
As we
is.
saw with your knife, we did it with 600, and then you polished it,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And this is number 2 for you of the 3?
This is the third one, actually.
Oh.
Actually, this was the first one, and I'm finishing it. One of them didn't really need much. I just did a little bit of fret work. I mean,
Not work.
nut work action up there. Other than that, that's all I did on the one. Although it could probably use this fret job too that we're doing here. You probably heard me tell the story. I had one guy, he wanted me to inlay the Gibson in his homemade mandolin, you know. He wanted me to put the Gibson on it and put a Gibson label on the inside. No. And I said, nope, ain't doing it. You know, he said, I'll give you $1,000 to inlay the Gibson and everything. I said, nope, ain't doing it. Sorry, see ya. I don't do that.
You're not Van Gogh.
Huh?
You're not Van Gogh, and you don't sign Van Gogh.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, isn't it better to write the Rosa on it?
Yeah, right. I said, I'll put your name in it if you want, but I'm not putting the Gibson in it. Because he was wanting to sell it for big money, is what he was wanting to do.
But this is burglary. That's not okay.
Yeah, it's not okay at all. Okay, I'm going to measure for a new saddle on this guitar. And I'm getting right at 100 thousandths, 1/10 of an inch. 110 there, that's weird. 105 there. Yeah, 117 in the middle. I had a feeling this was going to be like that. Yeah, it's only 100 down here, and it's 119 I'm getting right there. That's a lot. 118. And you might be going, well, how could it be that much wider in the middle than here? Well, if you look down this, you can probably see that it bends like this. This saddle that was in there had been in there for years, and it was loose, and it was bent really hard, and it was pulling right here in the middle, and it has expanded the wood right here in the middle. It didn't break it. I don't know how it didn't break it, but it expanded it right here in the middle, so it's much wider right here than it is here and here. So I have to make a saddle to fit that. I either have to recut the slot, which is not easy, and it would make it really wide, and I don't want to make it really wide. So I'm just going to make a custom saddle to fit that slot exactly. And we'll just go with that. Well, I made a piece of deer antler stock, and I made it 120 thousandths, which is the thickest point on this. This is not going to be an easy one to do. And am I going to be able to fit it as tight as I normally fit them? Maybe not, but I'm going to try. I'm going to get an approximate length right now, and I'm only going to get it approximate. I'm actually going to cut it long, of course. So I'll just nip that off to length right there. My friend Peter from Germany says it looks like the Hoover Dam. Yeah, and it's kind of the way this is. It's got an arch to it. The back is almost straight. It's got a tiny bit of arch. The front has a lot of arch. 20 thousandths of arch to be exact. I've just got to make up my mind here how I'm going to sand this down. Whether I'm going to do it by hand or try to do it mechanically. Once I figure that out, I'll let you know. I'm just going to start like this. I've got sandpaper on here, and I'm just going to start by, you know, a long angle, putting more pressure on the end. One way I can test it is like right here in the middle, it's about 120, and I can check it like this and go, okay, that's 115 already, so we're already making progress. We're at 110 on that end and 106 on that end. So we've got to go down to 100. $106 on that end and 102 on that end. So the 2 is getting very close. $100, right on the money. 105 on that end. Good on that end. We're good at 100 on both ends now. Now the trick is getting the middle to match the curve. So I'm trying not to take much off the ends now. I'm trying to get more toward the middle. I'm going to have to get more specific on the length before I'm going to know if this is going to fit. The end goes in that end, this end goes in on that end. The middle almost goes in. I'm going to have to round these off, get one end rounded off, and then try to get this cut to length. Okay, I've rounded off this end, and now I'm going to cut this to length. All right, and again, I'm just going to try to sneak up on it. All right, because the back has a little bit of curve to it, I'm just going to curve it just a little bit. It's not hardly any, couple thousandths. So I'm just going to work the edge of it here, just to try to help it. It's starting to go down in there, but it's still a little long, so I'm going to take a little more off the length. Well, my friends, this thing is right on the edge of going, and it's going to look like it grew in there, I think, because it's really tight everywhere. I'm trying to figure out where I'm tight. I think I'm too tight right in here, so I'm going to give that a shot. It's actually going down in there. It's not going all the way yet, but it's going in there. See, you can pick the guitar up. It's really fitting very, very well. Better than I thought it would. Okay, so the way I tell how deep I am is I take a fine pencil like this and I just mark along the edge and then pull it back out, and you can see there exactly how deep we are. with the pencil. So we're pretty close. We're not all the way down, I don't think. So what I do is I take the caliper now, and I put the end of the caliper there, and I just measure this right here in that area, 147, and we're probably 20 thousandths from going down in there. So there's a chance that the problem is there's a shelf in here. So that happens a lot, and so what I do is I just take the sharp edge of the X-Acto blade and just clean it a little bit. I'm really not cutting much, but it does cut, and it cleans it up. And then we'll try it again and see if we're even closer. The mark's in the same place, so we didn't gain anything. It might be too long still. That might be my problem. It might be hitting on the ends. So what I'm going to do is just taper the ends just a little bit down inside there, just to give myself the best chance. Not very much, just a little bit, just enough to maybe make the difference of this going in there. I might be wrong, but I think we're down. I think that was it. Well, it's not changing on the mark, but I think we're down to the bottom. I really do. And I don't want to take any more. I don't want to do any more sanding, because now it's not loose, but it's you know, I don't want to. It's right at the edge of being loose, so I don't want to get it loose. It won't pick the guitar up right now, so that's the problem. It's not quite tight enough to pick up the guitar, but it's still very tight, tighter than your average saddle is. Yeah, it's right on the money. So I think we're good. All right, so now we're just too high. I'll just take a saddle here and just to get a profile, and like you put it on something flat like that, and you just basically trace the profile. Now I'll cut it bigger than this because I want to make sure we got plenty. So that looks pretty big actually, but I'm going to cut it a little bigger than that. We'll put it in here, we'll put a couple strings on, and we'll check and see where we're at. Okay, I've got the saddle cut down. I've got the, it's, you know, I know it's tall. We're just going to do our measurements here, write them down, and then we'll cut the bridge to make it work. I mean the saddle to make it work. All right, I'm going to call it 115 thousandths. I'm not going to take anything off the little e. These guys play hard, and I don't want to get it too low. The little e is just right on the money at 80 thousandths. So I'm just going to take it off this one. So 115, and we want to get it down to 90. So that's what, 25 thousandths. So that's quite a bit. That's 50 thousandths I have to take off that one side, which seems crazy. I better do a sanity check and make sure that I'm not doing something wrong here. I'm going to call it 110 thousandths instead. 110 to 90, so that's just 20 thousandths. So that would be 40 thousandths we have to take off. So I'm going to go 40 thousandths to nothing is really what it amounts to. 40 thousandths to nothing, and it should be perfect. And I think I've already shown this in this video, but I'll show you again that on the base side there, I'm marking it with some black marker, and I will set my calipers at 40 thousandths and then just scribe a mark across here. So basically when I push this into the sander, I push this side in more, and like as soon as this mark touches the sander and this end is just barely touching the sander, then it's perfect. Well, off camera, guys, I took the saddle back out and I put a steeper back angle on it. Normally I only use about 12 degrees, but on this one I had to go to about 20 degrees because everything is leaning forward, as I said. So it's just the way it is. We're not going to change that. Now I'm hoping that this bridge is going to hold. I haven't tested that yet. We're just going to tune it up to pitch, and then we're going to check and see if the bridge is held. Okay, we're at pitch. Well, just by eye looking, it looks like it held. The best way to tell is to take a piece of paper and see if it goes under there. No, it does not, and it did before, for sure. Right now it's held. Do I claim a victory on that? No. Time will claim the victory. We have to wait and see how it goes. But right now, I think it's going to hold. So we have the Mossman all fixed up. Let me double check before I get ahead of myself. Let's check the first fret. I didn't check that. I think it's pretty good. I think I checked this earlier. I think it's okay, honestly, but I can get pretty picky on this. That's right on the money. This one's just a hair high. That was a hair high. It's so minimal. This one's a little high. It's not real bad. This one's not real bad. It needs a little bit. So we could do, most of these are okay, you know, I mean, like they're not far off. You can live with it the way it is, but since it's here, why not? We might as well. The first one's, the big E is fine. This one's a little bit off. Yep, that's right where it should be, right there. Now when you press it down, it doesn't move. This one's that just barely needs anything, but we'll do it. Right on the money. See, it doesn't move at all when you touch it now. But it also doesn't raise up when you slide this pick in there. These are 16 thousandths. To me, that's the perfect height for a guitar, for acoustic guitar. Electric, you could go lower. You know, electrics are mechanical gadgets. They aren't real guitars. They're a 6-string electrified mechanical gadget. Peter plays a 6-string electrified mechanical gadget, don't you, Peter?
Yeah, several, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have other challenges on that. You have electronic challenge, and intonation is also a big thing to do on it.
Yeah. Speaking of intonation, we haven't actually checked that yet, but it can't be far off, or you know, there's not much we're going to be able to do about it. We can modify this saddle if we need to. It kind of is what it is on a guitar like this. Wow, that's really sharp. That's a lot sharp. Well, I'm not happy about that. It's less sharp, but it's sharp. It's sharp too. It's probably because everything leaned forward. It's sharp also. Very sharp on the B. Yep, that one's not as sharp. That one's only a little bit. That one's a lot. Let me just double check the action now. I have a feeling that the action is high again. It is. And that's probably because this is pulled up again in the back here. The back is, you can probably see there is a little bit of a hump in this area. So it has pulled back up, so we have some room to work with. We won't have to make a new saddle. I could almost turn the saddle around backwards and it would work better. Except for the fact that it's bulged in the middle. On a normal guitar, you could turn it around and it would work almost fine. But on this guitar, not so much. Yeah, I'm not happy with the intonation at all. It's bad. You couldn't really check the intonation, in my opinion, until you got all this done. And that you could have checked it ahead of time and you would have had an indication, but you wouldn't know for sure until you get everything done. And now we know for sure what it needs. And we're going to fix it. Well, to fix the intonation, I cut the bridge at a steep angle all the way back to this E, and then I offset the, and then less angle here, but then I offset the B quite a bit also. So this should be at least considerably better. It won't be perfect. All right, let me look at the action again. Action is still high. Yeah, I think it's the pulling up of this back here is the problem. But let me just double check, make sure that's still tight. I think it is. Yeah, it is not loose, but it sure has stretched this area here, you know. Let me tell you what the problem is, friends, and this is something you should watch on your instrument. If your saddle does not fit the slot tightly, and if your saddle is leaning forward, you are doing damage to your acoustic guitar, and it's sometimes permanent damage, or it's really hard to fix. This guitar has been left this way for too long, and it's pulled this back up a lot. I'm surprised it didn't crack the bridge, but as you saw, it pulled the front of the bridge forward. You know, it just made it like a banana going in there. Well, now it's hard to get the intonation right. It's hard to get the action right because it changes as you tighten this down. I'm going to actually take this apart yet one more time because I want it right, or as right as I can get it. The E, with all the full tension on it, the E is still now at 110. That's ridiculous. 110. That's the big E. And then the little E, well, it's higher than it was. It's up to 90 now. So we need to take off 20 on this side and 40 on this side. I'm gonna take this out yet again and mark it yet again. Then maybe the intonation will be better too by lowering this action down some more. But this should be the last time I think I have to take it apart. I really wonder, back when I was a kid, was it ever easy being me back then? Okay, this is still set at 40. I need to take another 40 off the thing now. And we need to take 20 off the other side. Okay, we've got the instruments set back up. I cut a lot off the saddle. Now I'm going to check the action again. Hopefully this time it should be really close. Yeah, we're really close. We're at 94.5 thousandths and about 84 or 5 thousandths on that. So we're really good there. Let me check the intonation and see if we're still good. Hopefully we are. close, very, very close. Very, very close. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I'll put it there. Maybe I'll zoom in on the needle a little bit. It's very close. And it was way off. All the strings were way off. Right on the money. Really close. There's the B. The B was way off. Really close. It's a hair sharp, but just a hair. Very, 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 very close. It's not perfect, but it's very close. It's close enough most dogs couldn't hear it. So I think it's just fine. Well, I'm going to tell you something. This Mossman fought me every step of the way. This sucker had a lot of issues. The fact that that saddle had to be custom made to fit that weird slot. The bridge was loose. We've got that glued back. Yet again, I'm going to test it real quick. Make sure it hasn't pulled loose. Perfectly tight, perfectly tight. The action is still just on the hair edge high, but these guys play hard, and they even said yesterday we probably would rather leave it around 90, 95 in that area yesterday when I was talking to them. I've got the action way down low here. It's just easy to play. Overall, it's just about as good as it's going to get. As good as you're going to get, especially the condition this sucker was in. I say one more time, watch your saddle. If your saddle is loose and it's pulling forward, you are doing damage to your guitar, whether you believe it or not. And over time, it will be significant damage. In this case, I'm going to recommend to these guys to put light strings on this. They're probably not going to take my recommendation, but that's what I'm going to recommend. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video.